Everyone in Wilmington knows the name Casey Pitzer, but not everyone agrees on what really happened that cold, wet night in March. And that is where this story begins. Picture this: a small, quiet town, the kind you see in postcards, rolling hills, open fields, neighbors who know your name. A place where people leave their doors unlocked and parents let their kids roam free without fear. A place that feels safe, almost too safe. Now imagine that same town shaken to its core by a mystery that refuses to fade. A mystery that has haunted families, divided a community, and left more questions than answers for over a decade. This is not just a story. This is a puzzle. And every piece you are about to hear will pull you deeper into the truth, or maybe further away from it. It was St. Patrick's Day, a night meant for laughter, green drinks, music, and celebration, and like many others in Wilmington, Casey Pitzer stepped out to enjoy herself. A young mother of two, hard-working, quiet, a little shy, but full of life when she wanted to be. She had been through her struggles, raising her boys on her own, doing everything she could to give them a better life. And that night, she just wanted a break, just a few hours to dance, laugh, and feel free. She wore a green hoodie, her pants, and those cowboy boots she had just bought days earlier. Boots her family would later recognize in a way they never imagined. The night started like any other. Buffalo Wild Wings, drinks with friends, laughter filling the air. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing that hinted at what was about to unfold. From there, the night moved to Uncle Lewis, the place everyone went when they wanted to keep the party alive. Especially on nights like this, when the whole town seemed to pulse with energy. Inside, Casey was dancing, laughing, enjoying herself. Footage later shows her moving freely, smiling, alive in every sense of the word. And if you look closely, you see someone who doesn't look broken, doesn't look defeated, someone who looks like she still had so much to live for. But somewhere between the music fading and the night ending, something changed, because Casey walked out of that bar, and from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. The next morning, confusion began to spread. Her ex-boyfriend went looking for her. She wasn't home. Calls went unanswered, and panic slowly started to rise. Then came the call that no family ever wants to receive. Casey is missing. At first, people thought maybe she stayed over somewhere. Maybe she lost her phone. Maybe she just needed time. But as the hours passed, that hope began to fade. By early morning, the search had already begun. Family, friends, neighbors, everyone stepping in, walking through muddy fields, calling her name, refusing to believe that something terrible had happened. Her father searched tirelessly, crossing roads, moving through woods, shouting into the silence, hoping for a response that never came. Then, something strange happened. Search dogs picked up a scent, and they led straight to a retention pond. And there, almost immediately, they found her boots. Those same black and teal boots she had just bought. That moment changed everything. Because now, this was no longer just a missing person case. Now it felt real. Now it felt serious. Now it felt like something had gone terribly wrong. For 7 days, search teams combed that pond, to divers, sonar, volunteers, all hoping for a miracle, but deep down, many already feared the worst. And then, the search ended. Casey was found, gone. The official report would later say, drownin', with alcohol contributing, an accident. But for her family, for many in that town, that explanation didn't just feel wrong. It felt impossible. Because when you look closer, the story begins to fall apart. Think about it. A young woman, allegedly intoxicated, somehow crosses multiple lanes of highway, navigates muddy terrain, climbs over a barbed wire fence, makes her way to a freezing cold pond in near freezing temperatures, removes her boots, and enters the water. No cuts, no major injuries, and no clear explanation of how she managed all of that in that condition. Does that make sense to you? Or does it raise more questions? Because it did for her family. And the deeper they looked, the more things didn't add up. There were missing pieces everywhere. Her belongings, her purse, her phone, questions about what happened between the moment she left the bar and the moment she ended up at that pond. Then came the accounts of two men who claimed they were the last to see her alive. They said they picked her up, offered her a ride, but instead of taking her home, they drove in another direction. Why they claimed she suddenly tried to jump out of the car while it was moving, that she ran across the highway and disappeared into the darkness. And just like that, she was gone. But here is where it gets even more unsettling. Those same men took polygraph tests. The family was told they passed, but later records revealed something completely different. One result was inconclusive, the other was deceptive. And yet, no further questions were asked. No arrests, no deeper investigation, nothing. Why? Why tell the family one thing and the records say another? Why not follow up? Why not dig deeper? And that was just the beginning, because as the family pushed for answers, more disturbing details emerged. Evidence that should have been preserved was destroyed. Her clothes, gone. A rape kit, gone phone records, missing key evidence that could have told the full story. Or simply vanished. How does that happen? How does a case with so many unanswered questions lose so much critical evidence? Was it negligence? Was it incompetence? Or was it something more? The family refused to accept the official story. They kept pushing, kept asking, kept demanding answers, even when doors were slammed in their faces. They filed requests. They went to court. They stood in front of officials, speaking out, refusing to be silenced. And still, they were met with resistance, denied access, ignored, labeled as difficult, but they didn't stop. Because for them, this isn't just a case. This is Casey, a daughter, a sister, a mother. A life that mattered, a life that deserves truth. As years passed, the case only grew more complicated. More voices joined in. Independent investigators, community members, people who couldn't ignore the inconsistencies. Some believed it was a tragic accident. Others believed something far darker had happened. A cover-up, a failure of the system, a truth buried beneath layers of silence. And in the middle of it all stands a father, a man who refuses to give up, who stands in meetings, demanding answers, who faces opposition, criticism, even arrest of those standing beside him, and still says, this will not stop, because for him, stopping means accepting a version of events that doesn't make sense. Stopping means letting go of the fight for his daughter, and that is something he refuses to do, years later. The questions remain: what really happened after Casey left that bar? Why were key pieces of evidence destroyed? Why were important records never preserved? Why were contradictions ignored? And, most importantly, was this truly an accident? Or is there a truth that has yet to be uncovered? This case is more than a mystery. It is a reminder that sometimes the truth is not what we are told. That sometimes justice is not as straightforward as it should be. And that sometimes the loudest voices are the ones still searching for answers. Casey was not just a headline, she was someone's whole world. And until the truth is fully uncovered, her story remains unfinished. So now I leave the question with you. After hearing everything, What do you think really happened that night? Because in Wilmington, the story of Casey Pitzer is far from over.